It's back, the Reckless Renewables Rally. Make a statement where it truly counts, this time in Canberra. Join us on the Parliament House lawn at 10 a.m. on Tuesday, February 6th, the first session of Parliament for 2024. People from across the country, coastal and regional areas are rallying for the government to stop the reckless rollout of environmentally harmful, unreliable and costly so-called renewable projects. These include wind, solar and high voltage transmission line projects. Listen to speakers representing the federal and state governments, community organisations and environmentalists, all accompanied by great music and entertainment. Bring your flags, banners, signs and most importantly, your voice and ears to support rural and regional Australia. Together, let's ensure that the Minister for Climate Change and Energy, Chris Bowen, and the Australian Government take responsibility and stop the risks and costs associated with their reckless and obsessive rush to adopt these so-called renewable energy projects. What's on the line is Australia's national interests, our economy, our security and the well-being of our environment both now and into the future. Join us in Canberra. Together we can make a difference. Not clean, not green, not net zero.
Our message is very, very simple. We want to educate the kids, not indoctrinate them.
Period. End of story. I'm sick of hearing this sort of nonsense from these people.
She doesn't want these projects in her backyard, in Warringah. She wants them in yours.
Ridiculous. You know? Shame on you people. You know? You've been here for 10 seconds and you think you're going to run the joints.
And I still find it offensive because they still keep on talking about how Australia's got this racist underbelly. No, we don't.
We should be energy independent here in Australia. We've got everything.
My confidence in Australians has just been restored.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Commanding the Narrative here with Mr. Richard Storch. How are you, Richard?
Thank you.
And Sam Buono.
Hi, Stephen and Richard. Back for another episode of Commanding the Narrative.
Nice to see you always dressed so well for these episodes, Sam.
Would you want me any other way?
I'd like to see you all suited up with a tie and a
6-day growth and a Lowe's t-shirt.
That's how you roll, isn't it?
That's how I roll.
Yes. So,
like you're not seen below, but I've only got a pair of shorts on.
Well, the ladies would love to see that, wouldn't they? Thank you for having us again, Richard, in your humble home.
Always a pleasure.
Your humble abode, yes. Now, this week, big news with Albanese and his tax cuts. What were your guys' initial thoughts about these tax cuts?
Well, it was telegraphed a couple months out, wasn't it? They kept asking questions. They wouldn't answer the question. They never put a total commitment that they would see it through. And then they started leaking out to their press people.
It's come out today that apparently the Prime Minister and the Treasurer aren't talking anymore.
Oh, that's lovely. That's normally how it goes, isn't it?
So apparently there was a difference of opinion about it.
That's just trial by, you know, we can list off a whole bunch of treasurers that don't speak to the Prime Minister.
Yeah, but written by a bloke that in the Australian bloke called Cameron Milton, a Labor person from Queensland. Obviously, he's pretty close to Chalmers. But if they're not talking to each other after only 2 years, they've barely been together for 2 years in government. At least Hawke and Keating went for 10 before they stoned each other. You know?
Yeah, maybe. Well, before we really start to get into it, I'll let everyone know that you can support us on Buy Me a Coffee. So if you want to head over to Buy Me a Coffee, you can go there and show us some love if you choose. That's you know, it seems to be a popular thing on the X-Candidate, so we also have that on Commanding the Narrative. So if you do want to support us, head over to Buy Me a Coffee. And I'll also let you know at the start of the show we had a promo that we've been playing for the Reckless Renewables Rally. It's coming up on February 6th. That's next week.
Next Tuesday coming up.
Yeah, are you two heading down for that?
I thought I was chauffeuring you down.
Oh, well, Adam's taking me up on that. Adam Zara's going to do that, but I'll see you down there.
I might hitch a ride with you.
Yeah, okay. If you want to find out more about it, you can head to the Facebook group. It's the National Rally Against Reckless Renewables page. Head to that. You can see who's speaking. There was a media announcement that went out today with all the speakers. There's some really notable senators and members of the National Party and some of the minor parties speaking. Barnaby Joyce, Jacinta Price was on there. I'll have to double check and
Matt
confirm
Canavan.
that she's still on there. Matt Canavan will be speaking, so it's going to be
Malcolm
quite
Roberts.
an event. Yeah, he'll be speaking.
Craig Kelly,
Craig Kelly will be is on there. Yeah, so
a cross section.
yeah, if you can make it down to
When are
Canberra,
they finishing speaking?
it's going to be a long day. So they're going to start at 10 a.m. The plan is to go to 5, and then there's going to be some entertainment afterwards. So there's going to be that lovely young lady that plays the piano and sings that was there in Sydney. She's going to be performing as well.
She lives in country Victoria, isn't it?
I'm not sure.
I think
where
she came from
lives.
up there.
Yeah, maybe that's
Or from out.
that's right.
Yeah, from the southern part of southern New South Wales around Yass, or down on the northern parts of Melbourne there.
Yeah. But she's tremendous, and she's written some good music. So if you can make it down there, please do, because it's a very important issue. These farmers don't normally have a voice, so they're coming together to express that voice, and it's important for people living in Sydney and Canberra and other places to know exactly what they're facing with these renewables projects ripping up their farmlands and destroying rainforests up in Queensland and
I'd
other
like
issues.
to comment on that. And
Would you?
Yeah. That is that everybody doesn't understand just how much of an effect this will all have in terms of renewable energy, because it is the biggest and best scam I've ever seen in my life. Everyone is going to pay for this.
The best scam.
Yep. It's a carpetbagger's wet dream. You're trading air. You can get a product which doesn't even exist, price it, profit on it, and distribute it wherever you want, anywhere in the world, without any transparency at all.
And if it loses money, the government subsidies.
Well, the government's already subsidising the establishment of it and the creation of what's called a carbon credit certificate. And that is a carpetbagger's wet dream. Yeah. So everybody is involved in this. Everybody will pay for it. Everybody is already paying for it. It's just a case of where we end up and how long it takes everyone to wake up.
There was a lot of money involved in it, isn't it?
We're not talking about millions or billions. We're talking about trillions of dollars.
That's right. I reckon in Australia it's at least $1 trillion, if not $2 trillion.
Already
for the next 30 years.
Already. I mean, it's like this could end up pushing us to a situation close to Argentina. I'm not exaggerating. I'm talking maybe Venezuela, Zimbabwe stuff. Well, yeah. I mean, this isn't just selling out our energy security or our national security. This is selling out our future financial security as well. And if they start dragging money out of super funds and the future fund and so on, we won't see it again.
With that appointment, while we're getting off,
I mean, at least if you got on the Harbour Bridge and started dropping it off, and at least you could see where it went. You won't see this; it'll just disappear.
Interesting with the appointment with Greg Combay to the Future Fund.
Well, that is interesting.
That is, and he's a climate freak.
Yeah,
put in a nutshell. Where's he? How much override does he say to reroute that money in dollars of the?
I think we need to come up with a shirt that says "Climate Freak," and you can wear that on the next show, Sam.
I think climate cult would be better.
Yeah, well, it is a climate cult. We all know that.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, it's more of a cult than a freak. It's a cult movie.
But you've raised a good point. The scam and the trillions of dollars that are involved in it, and it's just about, as you said, trading air. I mean, it's a dream. It's a dream scenario, isn't it, for these?
Look, people have been searching for the ideal scam for centuries, and this is it.
Yep.
This is it. It's arrived, and the people behind it are wealthy pension funds and fund managers overseas, and individuals that are very, very good at hiding their actions.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a massive.
So we'll have a look at the tax cuts. I'll just bring this up for everyone watching. You guys won't be able to see this, but you guys know this pretty well.
Yeah.
So the tax brackets were meant to change. The 30-cent, the 37 cents tax bracket was meant to be abolished.
Yep.
The argument for that is to eliminate bracket creep. Do you guys want to explain what bracket creep is?
Basically, inflation adding onto your wage and going from one next tax. If you're on 90,000, next thing you're on 110. 2 years later, you're going to a next tax bracket. You know,
yes.
For example. And
so
therefore, you're working, and you're paying more taxes.
So essentially, the 30-cent tax bracket was going to go from 45,000 to 200,000.
That's right.
So that would be the majority of workers out there, I would assume, would just be paying 30 cents.
90% of the country, wasn't it?
I think it was 97%.
That much was it? Yeah.
So 97% of the country is paying 30 cents in the dollar.
Yeah, I think you've got to bear in mind, though, that I think the figure is 70% of the tax is paid by the top 11% of earners. So what this was, everyone's caught up on who's getting what and who's not getting what and all that sort of stuff. That's really the secondary issue. The real issue is that this was Australia's only economic reform since 2007. And it was that there were hundreds of thousands of man hours that went into doing all the reports, the studies, the papers, and then the legislation. And it was done over 7 years. There were 3 stages, and this was the final stage, which actually contained all the economic reform. And it's like the first 2 stages were all so that everyone could accept the economic reform. And just at the last minute, the Prime Minister's intervened for his own base political motives and subverted the whole process, which has been going on for 10 years.
Well, maybe in the 3 or 4 years' time, when people are going to the next tax bracket, some might say, "Well, what happened there?" So, well, you blame your mate Albo that in January 2024 did a backflip.
Yeah, so
now you're paying 37 cents in the dollar at $110,000.
It's a bit late. There'll be 2 prime ministers in between now and then.
So what's happened now is that people earning $18,200 to $45,000 will be paying 16 cents to the dollar. Then the 30-cent tax bracket will now only be 45,000 to 135,000. The 30-cent tax bracket will stay, and that will be 135,000 to 190,000. And then anyone earning over 190,000 will be paying 45 cents in the dollar. So that's
not including the Medicare too, Medicare levy.
Yeah, well, that's not including your GST and all the other taxes that go, stamp duties.
The big thing is that there's such a thing as called a virtuous cycle, and it's been proven over and over again in economic theory. And it's simply this: when you reduce tax rates, you collect more tax. It's as proven as supply and demand in theory. And Tony Abbott actually did a wonderful experiment, because he put a high earners levy on in 2013. And their collections from the top tax bracket went down $5 billion.
So essentially what you're saying, if there's more incentive for you to work harder, work longer hours.
Longer, better, everything.
Yeah, and earn more money, you won't be taxed as much. So you're more willing to work harder. Whereas if you know that your hard work is just going to push you up into a higher tax bracket, then why bother?
Well, exactly. And that's what people know. Everyone knows how much tax they pay, or when their benefits cut in and out. Everyone knows that. It's like the government always pretends, people wouldn't understand that. They do. They really do. And with your most productive workers who earn, say, anywhere over $100,000, you want them taking extra shifts. You want them doing more. You want them trying to get promotions and stuff like that. People like fly in, fly out workers, they're just not going to
get hammered.
They're not going to work 12 months of the year. They're going to work 6 months of the year.
Yeah, well, if the government's taking
Hmm.
45 cents in the dollar,
Yeah.
if you're going to go over this 190,000,
Yeah.
I mean, I always hear this argument: we want to tax the rich. We want to tax the rich. Well, do you think rich people,
You've got to be a lot
billionaires
cleverer
and
about it than
millionaires,
that.
yeah, but do you think they're sitting in an office 9 to 5 earning a paycheck at the end of the that
They're
you can
not
tax?
wage earners.
Then,
They're just
they're-
high earners.
They got their money in share options and in companies and
Trusts.
trusts.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. They're not earning
Offshore.
salaries that you can just tax. This is, I mean, when you're talking about someone that's on 190,000, that's middle. That's the middle ground, right? That's not rich people.
Yeah.
Well, it's just people that earn high wages or work longer or harder. But most people in business incorporate and they hold their profits in their company and distribute them so that they don't pay as much tax and they can still retain the use of their capital.
Yeah.
And
So now the Labor government are out there going, oh well, we've done this to save and help the little people out there. There's a comparison. Yeah, well, there's a comparison here that people will be able to see on the screen. You guys won't, but I can read it out for you. So, what they were going to get before the revamp, and compared to what they're going to get now. So, someone on 45,000 will now be getting $932. An extra a year. But how many people are on $45,000?
People that don't work full time.
Yep. Maybe students working part time and
housewives and all sorts of carers and stuff like that, shift workers. Yeah.
Yep.
But to live in a major city, you've obviously got to earn a lot more than that.
60,000 before you're going to get $375. Now you're going to get $1,300, and so roughly $1,000 more.
Well, that's all well and good, but it ignores the fact that there was a low and middle income tax rebate that was $1,500, and the government's taken that away.
Okay.
Right? And they said, "Oh, it's only a temporary measure." Well, yes,
During COVID,
it officially was, but no one was game to take it away, except they could get away with it.
Did that start for this FY24? Was it?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I guess the real comparison.
It's such a con job because I'm giving you this, having already got my hands into your pockets and taken that.
Yeah.
It's like, I'll give you half back. There you go.
Yeah.
It's like when a politician says, "I'm doing this for you." It's like when a con artist says, "Trust me, my friend."
Yeah. So here's the I guess a good comparison as well. So someone on 200,000 before they're going to get just over 9,000 back. Now it's only going to be 4,650.
Again, I've got to correct the language because it's like you're not getting anything back. The government's just taking less of what it's already taking, and that's been inflated anyway. So probably it's not quite the same as what you were getting 10 years ago anyway.
Let's cut to the chase. Two things have done it. Firstly, they've always opposed the stage three tax. They've whinged and bitched for it for years.
There's been dissension.
Well, I call it whinging and bitching. I don't know. That's my talk. And the main reason this has happened, it's all because of Dunkley by-election.
Precisely.
So,
I agree with that.
How? Why?
Well, those people
internal polling,
and
which we can't see. We don't know what the internal polling was. They're certainly not going to let us know.
Because I think what's happened there is that they're trying to get to that working class. Because Frankston's the only place in the world where there's water, but it's a working class area.
There's places in Brisbane, around the bay, Sandgate, and so on.
That's getting a bit up. That's getting a bit upmarket, isn't it?
Nah, still Wayne Swan territory.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, just in Melbourne, Frankston, travel an hour on the train to get home, and it's a rough area, working class area.
I've got a comment here from Graham. Hello, Graham, and thank you for watching again. Raising taxes for for payee taxpayers will do nothing for the economy. Actually, it will stifle commerce, including retail spending. Higher taxes are never positive.
No argument here, Graham. None at all.
It's almost sometimes come back to on the political situation. Obviously, let's stay on Dunkley for a while. Yeah, obviously, obviously, Labor have done some polling before Christmas. I reckon. What do you reckon more in the new year?
I'd say both. I'd say that they're really terrified.
Be interesting if the union people have gone and done some door knocking and see how it's really affecting us, because they're Labor are good at this stuff. Labor get their people then onto the ground, knock on doors, and get a sniff of what's going on down that way and stuff like that.
Pauline's saying that she's going to buy us a coffee in Canberra. So thank you, Pauline. Good. Hope to see you in Canberra at the rally.
Yeah.
Thank you, Pauline.
Yeah.
And I just think they've gone and door knocked, and obviously they've thought, gee, this is bad. This is not great. What do we do? So they might have mulled for the last couple of weeks. And someone's made up a point. This is a legitimate way to get rid of stage 3 tax cuts and redistribute it to the lower end of the market, which is the lower end of the market, which is around Frankston and that eastern part of the eastern part of the electorate, because it's a diverse electorate. Because on the western side towards the ocean, the Mornington side, it's a liberal area. Liberal stroke a bit of
Mount Eliza and so on. Yeah.
Yeah, along Mornington.
South Frankston.
Yeah.
That's all wealthy. Yeah.
Where 85% of the rest of the year is hardcore working class Labor, not Labor, but lower end of the spectrum and stuff like that. So, and this is my conspiracy.
It's blue collar.
Yeah, a lot of tradies and a lot of
Carrum Downs and stuff like that. And
a lot of not as many new estates, isn't it? That's more down towards Cranbourne. That's all that.
The voice results were pretty interesting in terms of Dunkley.
55-45, wasn't it?
It's a bit more than that. I think it was about 56. But you've got to remember that all the Mount Eliza areas all voted yes.
But it wasn't a big yes, was it? Was it 45 each way, wasn't it?
It was 55-45.
55-45 to the yes side on that around Mount Eliza and Mornington side, where it was probably the other way, probably 58.
Like 60-40.
Yeah, 60-40, the national.
So how do you think? I might play a clip because.
But come back to.
I mean, you are talking about the Dunkley by-election, and it will depend on Albanese's popularity and the popularity of the Labor Party.
But come back to just before I finish. There's a bloke in Victoria who's the strongest polling person down there. He's an ex-Labor operative, bloke called Cos Samaras, and I reckon this is my conspiracy theory. I reckon he's rung up Albo and said, mate, you're in trouble in Victoria. I've got a way of getting out for you. Or either through trades hall in Melbourne or something like that. Someone's got to him and said, mate, do this and do that, and you got a chance.
Well,
everyone gets something wrong sometime.
Well, something did happen down there.
I got to say, Cos is on, mate.
He usually gets it right, yes.
Especially in Melbourne. I don't know everywhere else. Yeah. I know we got a few things wrong in the New South Wales state election. Some electorates he got that terribly wrong, but that's another issue for another day. But if it's Victoria, boy, he's on the money. He's generally on the dot.
He's certainly decided to monetize his skills and start Redbridge, is it?
Yeah, he does a lot of work for the Teals.
So he's getting money from everywhere now.
Oh yeah,
he's doing well.
Okay,
give him credit. Well, he's on radio. He's on television now. He's on the ABC. He does. His other assistants do work on Sky and all that in the morning programs. So I know there's one of their senior workers, bloke called Simon Walsh. He does a lot. He goes on Laura Tingle. I'm not Laura Tingle. Laura J's on Sky News in the morning.
But you're speaking about Melbourne. Well, this is something that happened down in Melbourne at the tennis.
Good afternoon. Anthony Albanese has laughed off the hostile reception he received at last night's Australian Open men's final in Melbourne. The crowd erupting in a chorus of boos as he was introduced.
The Australian Prime Minister, the Honourable Anthony Albanese. The Deputy Victorian Premier, the Honourable Ben Carroll.
Gee, it was a good. Boy, that's a good boo, wasn't it?
Well, it just shows.
They gave it to him. And then they used to boo John Howard all the time, but not quite to that extent.
Oh, there was a big boost for Howard too.
Howard had his moments, but he never sort of fobbed it off and was glib and conceited like Albo. Says, "Oh, well, yeah, it just happens to prime ministers, you know." Ha ha ha. Well, laugh it up, funny boy. We'll see if you're still laughing.
The thing is, what also wasn't reported about, has been reported a bit on Sky, that last year he got
cheered.
He got cheered.
Same crowd, same place, same state,
same
everything.
Not same crowd, same demographic.
Yeah, all right. Fair
Okay, so once again, Cos said, "Don't worry about it." He would have rang. I reckon he would have rang Albo and said, "Don't worry about it. The people who booed you, they're $1,000 a ticket. No one in Frankston can pay $1,000 for a ticket on a Sunday night.
All right.
In late summer.
Imagine if he'd responded as he should have, in my view, in a sober, considered, conciliatory way, instead of his conceited, glib nonsense. If he'd said, "Look, you know, the country is doing it tough. There's lots of serious things we need to do. I'm very aware of it. I want people to know I'm really hearing them."
Well, what's he said? Well, what's he said for last?
How different would that be?
But what's he said for the last 12 months?
When he got back, nothing of any substance.
When he got back this time last year, he got cheered in Melbourne Park. And what did he do after that? The day after, talked about the referendum, The Voice. He banged on for the last 9 months. From February to late October.
Well, he really needed.
He never said a word about cost of living. Never said a word. He flobbed it off.
Yeah, he really needed a win after the referendum. There's nothing really that's come along. He's tried. I mean, as you said, they should be addressing cost of living, but this is not going to address cost of living.
But if it's psychologically saying you're going to get a tax cut, the people in Frankston might say, "Well, we're waiting."
Well, here's my question for both of you: is someone earning 200,000 rich
in Sydney?
Let's say in Sydney and Melbourne,
they're doing well.
They're doing okay, but
not great, but doing well.
Yeah.
No, I think they're doing well, but it's like that's not where
I wouldn't call them rich.
Where we are, mate. There's a lot of.
Let's go down to someone earning 120 grand. They're not rich at all.
No.
If you're only 120,000, if you're earning 120,000 living in Bathurst and Orange and anything on the other side of the mountain,
so the median income
anywhere
is
past Mount Lake Macquarie,
regional and remote Australia. Yeah, that's a great wage if you can get it.
Yeah,
but in a major city, it's a different ballgame.
So would you say earning 80 grand is the median wage, or is it up to probably about 100 now?
In Sydney, you're on at least 100. Sure.
And you're still struggling to get by.
I know someone who rents.
I think statistically, it's about 80,000 at the moment.
Well, I know someone who rents.
I've heard the same.
I know someone who rents on the lower near the city. It's in a pretty good area and stuff like that. That this person's wage is area he was 150,000 with a kid.
Yeah.
Divorcee.
And they still can't buy places. They still have to rent. They still can't.
Well, you take away the taxes, and I worked out the other day. I think she told me she was 138,000 plus superannuation, so 150,000 package.
Another comment from Graham here. He says, our current PM clearly has no connection to the voting public. Many Labor voters now have buyer's remorse.
Well, I'd agree with that. I mean, I don't think the Prime Minister ever had a connection with the voting public. Not a genuine.
And we've both agreed over the last 12 months that he's a terrible campaigner.
Oh, he's going to get another chance to show what he can do. But he did do well in the Eden Monero by-election that got
3 years
kept
ago
him the job.
When all they did was bash ScoMo all day.
Well, yes, but
he's in government now.
It did keep him the job. It was one of the most important by-elections that's ever been. Not as important as Dunkley, though.
Every by-election in these sort of situations is important.
Richard, this is going to be interesting for you, and Sam, I think you'll find it interesting as well. This is an article that was in the Daily Mail, right? And what they've done is they've gone out and they've sampled what people's reactions are to these tax cuts. So what I might do, I might read out some of them. There's quite a few in here, but I'll try and pick the best ones. Now, Imi, it's I-double-M-Y, I think I'm saying it right. Imi, she's 22 from Sydney CBD, said the rich do not need to be richer, and with a bigger tax cut, she can support herself and give to charity.
Amy, if you think you're going to get ahead with this tax cut, you need to really.
Well, she's still obviously this girl's just left. This girl's just left university, and she's still in university mode.
She said, "If I got an extra couple of $100 back, I'd donate to the Cancer Council and a bit on leisure."
She hasn't lived long enough in life.
Yep.
But this goes back to my initial what I was just saying.
But
if
that's
someone earning
university.
$200,000, are they rich? You're saying, oh, we want to tax the rich, but are these people? Would you classify them as rich? Are rich enough to be able to go after them and say they should be taxed more heavily than other people?
Well, over the next 10 years, they're certainly not going to be rich because they'll pay an extra 30% taxes. They're going to pay an extra $28 billion.
Coming back to that lady, she's in university mode. She's 22 years old. She done a day's work yet? The point is that she's 22. She's that I'm going to give charity. That's brainwashed university stuff.
Okay, well, here's what she says. She said, "Why would I care about a broken election promise when he's helping the people that need it most?"
He's not helping the people that need it most. He's helping himself.
Yeah, but this is how it's perceived by the public.
I understand, but it's like you can't stop people from buying into a deception. All you can do is try and illuminate the real deal, and it's like it's up to them to decide.
Maybe is there any other people a bit old the age? Is there someone that?
So there's okay. So
yeah, I've got to say I'm not really interested in what a 22-year-old.
Cynthia, she's 54, right? 54,
right? Born 1970.
We just lost our whole younger audience from Richard attacking them. She said, so Cynthia, 54, my eldest niece is in year 12 and she can't afford a laptop. So if I had more tax coming back, one of the first things I'd do is help her to get a laptop to get her through her high school certificate.
Why wouldn't she buy it herself and claim the tax deduction?
She's at school. Can claim it?
No. Why wouldn't the 54-year-old buy it and claim the tax deduction for herself?
I don't know.
I mean, yeah, it's a disingenuous proposition in the first place because, of course, she would if she's sensible.
How many people were interviewed?
Quite a few of them. I won't be able to read them all out.
Well, you had two.
This guy's.
Is there any antis there?
Yeah, well, that was an anti. This is
more. Both of them were pro. Tax.
Okay, so this guy Boris, 36, he's from Paris. He immigrated out here. He said Albo shouldn't have gone back on his word. You cannot say white and then do black. And basically what he's saying, he's keeping a more if you're going to say something, then you got to stick to it. A principled response. He's not so much concerned with the actual monetary side of things, whether he's going to be better off or worse off. He's looking at it and going, Albo lied, I can't trust him anymore.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, in business, there's an old dictum. If the worst decision to make is no decision at all, and the second worst is to change the decision you've already made. So once you've decided on a course of action, to change it is dangerous. But we're talking about a 10-year program. This is something that's been voted on and got bipartisan agreement, and Albo's just come along and just changed it.
Here's a guy, Nathan, 38. He's a businessman. He says, I'm not too sure about the inner workings of it, but it's good news for me. I don't earn $150,000 yet, so it's great news. We always say that they help the rich get richer, and so it's nice to see it swing the other way.
No, it's not. It's just a whole lot of people are getting less. It's just a case of where you sit on the shelf.
Here's something
the big issue is that the whole country will be less productive.
Well, this is just expressing these people's views. Sure. He said, for me, I don't focus too much on their promises. I mean, let's be honest, they break most of them anyway. So for me, it's generally balancing out their other promises as well. If you come out better at the end, then there's no problem.
Oh, terrific. We'll just accept all their deceptions and duplicity. Sensational. Why make any fuss about it at all? Let them just do what they like. They tell us one thing, do another, no problem. Yeah, what a fabulous argument.
Graham says in the chat, he said, genuine tax cuts should be for all workers. Taking from one group to give to another is not about cutting taxes. It is a mere manipulation of public funds.
And coming back to us, the main reason why this stage 3 was taken 5-6 years ago was actually genuine reform, and it's to stop one thing and one thing only: bracket creep.
Yep.
You've got to, you've just, why work your backside off when you're going from one tax bracket to another within 2 or 3 years of, where's the incentive to do it?
Yeah.
We work in a global economy. A lot of people who work for global companies, we've got to compete for labor.
Here's another comment. This is from Trent. It doesn't say how old Trent is, but it also says that that he is jaded by politics. Honestly, more tax back to lower income earners, ripper. But at the end of the day, it doesn't matter how much you get back. It's all about how the government uses what it keeps, and our parliament have never really had a good track record of making good use of the public's money anyway.
But that's a cynical. That's a person. A normal. Most people would think that. Gee, why should I pay taxes or give them money? They're going to spend it on stuff that.
Well, this is the thing. I mean, what they spend it on anyway. You go and work out your backside off to earn this money. The government takes it off you and then just throws it away.
Pea in the pot.
Yeah.
Spends it on the bureaucracy that
comes
just
back
do
to
nothing.
what a famous person said.
Gives it to Hamas.
Or
to build tunnels in Gaza.
Well, I was going to say a more polite one. I said there's a famous speech 32 years ago when I said, "Why should I give you any more than I need to?" Kerry Packer.
Oh, you're gonna love this one, Richard. This is from Cass. She's 20. You love the younger ones, and she has been struggling lately in the hospitality industry, and believes that rich people are overpaid. So this is what she said: I don't really think that rich people should be earning that much anyway. I'm more of a communist. I think everyone should be getting the same, but if you're earning more, then you should be getting taxed more as well.
I've got just the place for you, honey. It's called Cuba or Venezuela. Bon voyage.
Or there's another place too, a place called Zimbabwe.
Yeah.
I can't get over the fact that these people think that people shouldn't be earning more than others.
Well, she's 20 years old. She's been brainwashed at school. She's just gone into university probably. And until she does a proper day's work, then most of them wake up to themselves.
Here she said, I voted him in. I'm a Greens Labour voter. But if he's going to continue changing his mind, it's hard to trust government at all when we barely do already.
Well, she might be starting to wake up.
Well, maybe she's half the way there.
Well, maybe because she's starting to do a day's work and realise, gee, why am I paying taxes to fund someone else and I'm working my backside off? I'm doing 33 hours a week. And suddenly...
Pauline's made a comment in the chat. She said, the people responding in this article more than likely don't understand bracket. Well, she's probably right, because I think most people are not paying attention to politics.
But you should be listening to what's in your back pocket.
Yeah. Here you go, Richard.
Oh, thanks.
Don't die on us, okay?
Yeah. I'll give you an anecdotal in response to that. My son had a girlfriend who came from a family where both her parents were professors. And, he's come from a family where we're in business. So it was quite a contrast. And she said, "Oh, isn't business just about profit?" And I just started laughing, and so did he. And I just said, "That's about the last thing it's about, because unless you do a whole lot of other things, there is no profit." And it just showed a lack of comprehension about people that don't come from a business background or a trades background, about what it actually takes to create wealth and how difficult it is. If you've always got But if you come from a bureaucrat or a professional family, money just appears. It doesn't have to be created, and there's nothing that has to happen to create it.
See, this is
it's a very big division in our country.
This is when we go back to the 20-year-old. They almost have this mentality that people that are earning a lot of money are somehow stealing from the ones not earning money, where it should be the other way around. The government is taking off you, not someone who's rich. Like if someone's working hard and earning a lot of money, they're not taking from you. They're working hard and
creating something and giving the country back something.
Yeah.
At the same time, that's what a tax is. It's us giving.
So it's almost this twisted mentality where they're focusing all their envy towards the rich and saying, "Well, you're getting something and I'm not."
Adversarial. I agree with you, but it's also not seeing that there's an exchange and there's something actually being created. And not seeing any value in what's being done in the labour.
So is this a creature? This person, is she a creature of the education system for the last 20, 30 years?
I think she could have just come from a bureaucrat family or a professional family where you don't know.
Who knows? Yeah, that's right. You just we're only half guessing.
But the viewpoint's obviously something which is pretty common.
Yeah. Well, I know if we come back to politics of it, I read an article, I would have been about 6 months ago, about the socialist alternative movement.
Really?
Yeah, I did. And
why did you do that?
It just come up on one of my links. I don't know why. 66% of the people that from the members of the Socialist Alliance in Sydney live on the North Shore eastern suburbs of Sydney.
Well, of course.
Yeah. So I mean,
rich entitled socialists.
Yep. Here's Kirsten, 30. She's in her 30s. A little bit different take. The only concern that I have would be whether businesses claim that their workers technically got a pay rise, because I've seen dodgy things like that before. So if people do go out and get tax cuts, could a business turn around and say, okay, well, you're getting more money back now, I don't need to give you a raise next year?
I never tried that. Never occurred to me.
Because this is when the libertarians, here's an attack against the libertarians, and you can attack back at me if you'd like, Mr. Libertarian. When they say you shouldn't be paying any tax at all, or be paying as small a tax as possible, well, wouldn't then employers turn around and say, well, you're getting more back in your pocket, I don't have to pay you as much?
I would never have tried to run a line like that on anyone that worked for me, because in small business you've got to maintain the feeling or the perception that your employees are part of your family. That's the way it works. And if you disrupt that and introduced any kind of deception or mistrust,
well, he'll go find another job, won't he? And then you got to get another person coming in and treat him up and all that sort of stuff.
I remember we had to replace a receptionist. What would it be? 30 years ago. We did a whole costing on how much it cost to employ a new receptionist. It cost us $5,000 in man hours, tests, all sorts of stuff. That's just for a receptionist. And we employed, highly specialised employees that took sort of basically about 18 months to train. So this whole thing that employers are desperate to take advantage of their employees and exploit them and stuff like that. Well, for a start, you're in the wrong country.
Yeah.
If you want to make serious money by exploiting labour, you're in the wrong country. And the second thing is that most employers, are passionately interested in the welfare of their employees, and the ones that don't keep their employees very, very long.
And how long? And they generally don't last long in business, don't they?
No.
Got another comment from Graham. Most people today know nothing about how money works. The education system is basically useless because it does not prepare young people for their future.
That's what I said to you before. That Cass lady at age 20, what has she been taught at school? And what she's been taught in early the first year or two in university? What she said there was basically a university activist comment.
Yeah. But there's older people. I mean, okay. So final comment from Gertrude in her 50s.
Yeah.
I do okay. So if I get more money back in my next tax return, I'd give it to the poor, to those in need. My heart is to help others. That's the first thing I'm always going to do. If I can't help anyone, particularly in a time like this, if I can help anyone, particularly in a time like this, I'm going to do it.
The only thing with that girl the people in their 50s, this might sound silly or a bit.
Well, you're still
dummy.
in your 50s, so you can speak with authority.
Well, to be truthful, a lot of these people have never never been in a recession. They would have started working in the late 80s, early 90s when that was when at the time this is the recession we needed to have.
Yeah.
Right? We haven't had a recession since, technically it's now. We've always been printed money, like the GFC in 2008-9, and the pandemic was basically printed money. People still got now.
Yeah. Here's a good question for you, Richard, and it's from Graham again in the chat. He's asking, or he's making the statement, and you can I'll present it to you as a question. A simple solution to the tax issue is for the government to raise the tax-free threshold. Raising the threshold would instantly benefit all workers. It would also increase consumer spending.
It would.
Technically, if you're on 45,000, you don't pay any tax. You might be paying 6,000 or 7,000, but for example, if it's if you've got kids, you'll get child allowance and all that sort of stuff. So it's negative. They generally don't pay tax. They get it back some other way, things like that.
What's the rate going to? 16 cents.
16 cents.
Under 45. So.
Well, 16 cents at 27,000. So it's $3,000, $4,000 a year, $80 a week.
Yeah, it's like you're going to be getting a lot more in government subsidies.
Yeah, petrol.
So what it is now? If you're on 45,000, you'd be you're getting $932 back. Extra.
Yeah. So look, you're not paying that much tax anyway, and chances are you'll be on some
directly, but as you said, indirectly, you'll get subsidies in power bills and.
I mean, there's always
stuff like that.
An argument for the tax-free threshold, but it's much more complicated when you start seeing how the welfare system interacts with the tax rate, and you'll create sort of cliffs where people just don't want to sort of get up and get over the top of them because they're getting so much in one benefit that if they earn a bit more, they just lose more than they gain.
Yeah.
So
once again, it comes back to the incentive for working.
So it's like if you don't have a welfare system, or if you just look at the tax system in isolation, yeah, it's a great idea, and it would benefit everyone, but the implications and flow-on effects are much bigger.
So what I might do is I might put the link in the chat for people. If anyone wants to call in and ask a question or say something and contribute, we love reading the comments by Graham and Pauline and others. And they're great. But if anyone wants to call in, it's just taking that extra step to interact with us. But I heard Mark Latham speaking on Monday to Chris Smith on TNT Radio. And he said that these changes, this back down, this failure of Albanese to stick to his election promise is worse than this.
There will be no carbon tax under the government I lead.
What do you think, Richard?
Nah, I don't agree. That was pretty bad because that was promising to introduce an all new tax without any benefit.
I would agree. I don't think it's. I think that's really maybe it's a political kick to Albanese on the part of Latham, but I don't think it's quite as.
I actually can understand why he might say that the substance of it is more impactful. Maybe he wasn't being clear about what is. Well, maybe he wasn't documented correctly, but in substance, this is far worse. Much worse. The implications from it are really dreadful.
Why?
Because at a time when Australia's really struggled to increase its productivity, and we haven't, for many, many years now, only by importing more people have we increased it, but we haven't per capita increased our productivity at all.
We're technically in recession per capita.
So this is going to really retard productivity because you're putting an extra load or burden on your most productive workers, and that's just inexcusable. It's brain dead and stupid.
Yeah.
So, I mean, what you want to do with your most productive workers is to get them working harder, longer, and more productive.
Well, let's put it in as an example. If you're earning $180,000 and you can do a little bit more overtime, you're not going to do it because you're going to be like, well, I'm encroaching that $190,000. I'm going to be paying 45 cents in the dollar.
47.5. Because Medicare levy on the top. No, that's great. If you've got some tax deductions, maybe you will, but you're certainly not going to be focused on getting to $250,000.
Mm.
And there are plenty of people that can earn that kind of income and choose not to.
Yeah.
You know, and that's just going to become more and more prevalent as inflation push and wage rises just push people into higher and higher brackets. I mean, 37 cents in the dollar doesn't sound like that much, and 135,000 does, but in 4 years' time, it'll look a little different.
Inflation.
I think 37 cents is a hell of a lot. I think 45 cents is a hell of a lot. I mean, you're earning that money, and the government's not earning it. You're earning it, and they're going to take it off.
The government thinks it's doing you a favor by letting you keep some. This is the perception difference, which is really telling in this whole debate. But again, it's not really about who gets what and who doesn't and all that sort of stuff. It's really about whether this is in the national interest, and it's not. Certainly not in the people's interest. It's not in the national interest.
Here's the other side of it all. We're talking about income tax. Now, there's also corporate tax, and I've got this was in one of the local Northern Beaches rags, and it's talking about the top 40 tax dodgers, and a lot of these are multinational corporations. Exxon Mobil Australia topped the list. They almost earned $100 billion and didn't pay a cent in tax.
Here. They paid it in the US, I'm sure.
Well, I mean,
that's what's called a tax treaty, right?
Yeah.
Now, if you want to change all the rules of international trade, go for it, right?
Yeah, but here's the thing: they're earning that money here.
Yes.
But shouldn't the money come back here as well?
I believe it should, but to do that is actually quite a trick. I mean, you can be quite sort of heavy-handed and do something which is against all the trade laws that we've signed, and say, well, you've got to have a subsidiary which is 51% Australian owned, and therefore you will pay tax in this jurisdiction.
Well, yes, because if you look at the big four banks, they're mainly domestic markets, so they have to pay their tax here.
Now, I'm saying this theoretically and making it simple, but it's not simple. This is international law stuff.
Well, I know Joe Hockey, this 10 years ago, they were doing some formal treaties with other people around the countries around the world.
We've always had tax treaties because, you know, you've got to be domiciled in a particular country to pay tax. What we've cracked down on a lot is companies domiciling in tax havens like Ireland, which has 10% tax or something, or Latvia or somewhere like that, you know, which is very cute, but it doesn't actually sort of pass the sniff test.
Would we be paying as high tax if some of these companies were paying their fair share?
We're doing pretty well at the moment in terms of getting money out of companies. And
so here's Virgin Australia, almost $43 billion, not a cent in tax.
Oh, that'd be a conversation I'd love to hear. You talk to Richard Branson about how he should domicile in Australia instead of Ireland and the UK. Go for it.
Therefore, I still think maybe if they're not going to pay tax, let them pay. If you have tax-free status to it, well, I'm not talking about tax-free. You have higher GST. They got to pay GST.
Here's a radical thought: we could reduce our corporate tax rates to 10 cents in the dollar, and every company will want to come here and domicile
exactly right.
here.
Yeah, and you get 10% and 10% of turnover, which is from 1 trillion to 5 trillion, wouldn't it?
Yeah. So we could always do something really cute ourselves.
Hmm.
You know, would you be on board for that?
Well, I just don't.
If a lot of foreign capital came into this country, we'd be very well off.
Oh, the headquarters and everything. I mean, we could do
the
very,
headquarters
very
would be
well.
Sweet and George Street.
Yeah. What's wrong with that?
With a centralized computer in there, something like that.
Yeah, okay.
One.
But the point coming back to that would be, if money exchanges through Australia, we pick up that 10%.
I mean, I think the incoming US president would have a lot to say about us reducing our corporate tax rate to 10 cents in the dollar. Can you imagine?
Well, that's another question for Donald J.
You think it's going to be Donald J?
Are we going to stay on? Are we going to go on this? Are we?
No, just quickly.
That wasn't on the dot points.
Just a quick question.
I can't see any other outcome.
I still think Biden will win, personally. Only because I just think that
I better send you for the same sort of checkup that he made.
Yeah. I just think that those women, a lot of the women voters in the bigs in those Rust Belts might just don't like the way Trump has conducted himself the last couple of years.
Do you know how many illegal immigrants they've got now?
Do they vote?
Yeah, but the thing is, they go to where people that do vote.
Yeah,
live.
but they're in major cities of LA, San Francisco, Chicago, Martha's Vineyard. You know,
Well,
they're not in the Rust Belts. They're not in Philadelphia, or they're not in Pennsylvania. They're not in Iowa. They're not in Cleveland. They're not in Wisconsin, Milwaukee.
Well, I know you're not a betting man, but I'm prepared to bet you on that one.
I'm going to come back to American politics because I want to ask you a question. But just to finish up on the tax stuff, now if we look at these corporate tax dodgers, should we maintain a profit-based tax system, or should we move to?
I don't think that's an accurate portrayal. It's simply a case of if you're a multinational company, whether you've got a local subsidiary or not, and whether you're domiciled here for tax purposes. If you're an overseas company, you're paying tax overseas, more than likely.
Yeah, but you're paying tax overseas, and it's going to foreign governments that are benefiting foreign people.
Steve, give me a solution instead of a problem.
Okay, well, here's an example. So I'm going off memory, so I'm not going to be 100% certain about this, but Australia is the largest exporter of liquid natural gas. Okay, I think the royalties and tax that they receive from that is about 20-odd million. Qatar is the second biggest. They get 23 billion. It's because they have more of a consumption tax than so if you're taking the gas out of the ground, every cubic meter that you're taking has a certain taxable element to it. So every cubic meter you're taking out of cubic liter you're taking out of the ground, you're getting taxed on that. So you're not getting taxed on the profits that you can move offshore and manipulate.
It's a royalty.
Yeah.
Well, you can always raise royalties, and at a certain point in time, companies will choose to invest in other jurisdictions.
That's the problem.
Yeah, but we've got all the gas. Where else are they going to go?
There's gas all through the world.
Yeah,
we're not that cheap to extract it. It's not that easy to do here.
Japanese like us because it's reliable. It's pretty close by.
So what you're saying is we're only the largest exporter because we don't tax it as much.
Well, we're competitive at the moment. I don't see that we will remain that unless demand goes up enormously.
Well, the problem at the moment, we haven't enough. Luckily there's that ruling in the courts the other day that can Beetaloo, is it?
Barossa.
Barossa, and up in the Northern Territory. So that's our first major project in the last 10 years.
Yeah.
So I thought you had some questions for us, Richard.
About?
Or you've forgotten them now?
I have.
Sam, you wanted to talk about 4-year terms?
Yeah. I've been thinking about over this.
Don't we go back to Dunkley?
No. Do you want to stay on Dunkley? Do you?
Yeah.
Well, what have you got? What do you want to start with?
Well, where did we leave off with Dunkley?
Cos Samaras telling the Albo that we've got to change the policy on tax so you can get get yourselves, get the working class to think about they're going to get $20 a week extra.
Yeah, well, it appears that Dunkley's intricately connected with the tax changes, and the tax changes were motivated by poor polling with regard to Dunkley. So Dunkley's probably the most important by-election I've seen, and that's going back, to say 75, the Bass by-election.
Why? Why is it important?
Because this is a by-election's like an exam for a government. It's not like a report or a test or something. It's like an exam, and if they fail the exam, then it has an impact. I think this one will be the end of Albanese.
Really?
Yeah.
You think he'll get knifed if they lose?
Yeah, I do. I think it's that critical, and the Labor margin's very inflated.
Here's a prediction made by Richard. Dunkley by-election. If Labor go down in flames, so does Albanese.
Yeah, well, it's already causing quite a lot of division. So the Labor margin is 6.6%, I believe.
About that.
Yeah, and it's inflated because the local member who just died, Peter Murphy, was very popular. So it's somewhere between 3 and 4%. Let's say it's 3.5%. Then you've got a recent drift in the polls, which is another 1 or 2%. Let's say it's 2% by the time we get to the by-election. And then the next thing is Albo's broken promise. And it's like, I can see, there's commentary at the moment saying that Dunkley's line ball, so it's up for grabs. And the numbers add up.
I read something today or yesterday. So
Yeah.
The Labor thinks if they can just win, doesn't matter if they win by 0.1%. As long as they win, they'll be happy.
They'll be happy to get out of it with this.
Yeah.
They're wearing their own skin.
Yeah.
Well, governments normally lose by-elections, or if they don't lose, they don't go as well as what they normally would go.
Sure.
Yeah.
And yet this government 12 months ago was the first government in 100 years to win a by-election against the opposition.
Yeah, but to win two is a huge thing.
Well, they don't have to win this. They just have to avoid losing it. They've got a not insubstantial margin on the books. So I'm just saying it's pretty critical, and it's going to be really interesting to see if Albanese can campaign in this effectively. And then the next question is how much Peter Dutton will appear, how much he'll campaign, or whether he'll try and make it a local contest.
And I think if Albo Albo and Dutton will make a couple of guest appearances, get in and get out, I reckon. They'll just say, if that's the case, I think Labor will win because their ground game is much better than the Liberal Party.
It has been, but bear in mind this is a by-election, so the Liberal Party can concentrate its resources and get its people out there.
Graham says
they don't have to win 37 seats in Victoria; they just have to win one.
Yeah.
Graham says, I don't agree.
Oh, goody.
By-elections often have a local flavour combined with federal or state influences. All these factors need to be considered.
I agree with all that. What am I supposed to disagree with?
Well,
he disagrees with you.
But Graham,
I agree with everything you said.
Well, I think does Albo go there the next month? Does he go there once a week?
Yeah.
Does Dutton go once every 2 weeks?
Yeah.
Where's Dutton's head at? Where's Dutton's head at with all this? Referendum,
I don't know.
tax cuts?
You've got a much better key into how he feels and relates to things because you're more similar to him than me. You've got terrific capacity for insight.
I don't know about that.
Well,
I think Dutton's too quiet.
Well, you always feel that you could be more outspoken.
Yeah, well, I would. Well, you did say to me, whether it was earlier today or the day before, that don't don't interrupt your enemies when they're
making a mistake.
Yeah.
That's Napoleon's statement, but it was actually Sun Tzu that said it first.
Yeah.
Never interrupt your enemy while he's making a mistake.
So let Albanese fall on his sword, and
he has to come out. You wouldn't think you have to do anything until Parliament starts next Tuesday.
I just
he's
feel-
got to make a decision.
It's only next week.
Yeah, I know, but he might announce something Sunday morning. What they're going to do with stage 3s.
I just feel like Dutton's not doing enough.
Well, opinion polls say that he is doing enough.
Well, that's true.
They're falling on their sword a bit. He's staying on message. The party's pretty, as I said to you, I think I've said to you a couple of times last couple of months. He's kept a pretty tight ship. There's no one leaving.
But all it's going to be,
even that Bridget Archer's shut her mouth. You know,
if he does eventually win the election, then it will be that the Labor Party lost the election, not that Dutton won the election.
How did Albo win?
He didn't,
because
Morrison lost.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. So governments lose elections, not oppositions.
Well, this government's doing a bang up job of losing the next election.
My
if you want me, I think Labor will just win. I think Labor will just hold on in Dunkley. That's my personal opinion.
They've got the Liberals have a much better candidate.
I think Labor got a better ground game.
But that's discounted by the fact that the Liberals aren't short-handed and underfunded because they've got one seat to win.
I know that, but I just think that let's see what happens. How often Albo goes down there or Dutton goes down there. If it's locals versus locals, I just think sometimes Labor are good at this sort of stuff.
Well, this is the thing.
Door-to-door combat. That's where they're good at. They've got numbers on the ground. They've got union people that will scour the seat.
Sure, but in this instance, the Liberal candidate has the initiative because he can either do a local campaign or a national campaign or both. Right? He can set the agenda, and the Labor candidate has to basically welcome and accommodate all these, ministers and the Prime Minister coming and sort of pretend that she's going to be as important and all that sort of stuff. It's just it's a much weaker position.
Here's a good question for you, Richard. If Labor do well in Dunkley, where does Dutton? Where will Dutton's leadership be?
Well,
will he face it?
He'll want to blame the incompetence of the Victorian Liberal Party. That's what he'd want to do. Whether he can get away with that, it's another question.
But would there be knives out for Dutton?
No. Who are you going to replace him with?
Job? Tell me.
Well, they could be the next Prime Minister.
Oh, really? I mean, there is almost no one saying that Dutton will be the next Prime Minister in 2025.
So you still think Labor's going to retain?
I think the next government will be a Labor minority government. I think that's the safest bet.
I still think a majority because I still think they'll hold all their seats in Western Australia.
Oh no!
That's what I mean.
I definitely want to bet you on that.
But I reckon if Albo wins Dunkley and the margin's still at 6%, and the polls go okay, we'll go an election in October.
Yep, I agree with that. Yeah, he'd call an early election. Yeah,
before Trump.
So we've got a American election coming up this year.
That's another aspect of why this by-election is so interesting and so crucial, because it will dictate the term and
the next 12 months.
Yeah,
the next
term
9
and
months
length of the government will, without any doubt.
We've got an American election coming up this year, a UK election coming up this year, and potentially an Australian election. We've got a lot to talk about.
I reckon Albo will go in early October.
I've heard whispers there will be November.
He won't be around when
he won't. Well, I'm making assumption. We're just making an assumption that if he holds on in Dunkley and doesn't lose any skin in Dunkley.
Pauline says, Richard, I hope you're wrong. I'm guessing she's referring to you saying that it's going to be a Labor minority government.
Yeah, well, I do too.
Well, another factor is that when did Queensland go? Did Queensland go in October?
I'm not sure.
And when does NT go too? There's two state elections, NT and Queensland.
Yeah.
No, I think pretty sure Queensland's in October, so that might knock Albo back a couple of weeks prior.
September, I thought. Anyway.
Oh, is it September?
Scheduled for the 26th of October.
No, you're right.
And also in New South Wales, there's a state local government elections. That's what's that? Is that the first week of September or the last week?
I think it's September.
Early or late, one of them.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know that.
So there's a few backlogs, and you can't go to election till at least August.
I mean, he's not going to be there, so there won't be any conflict.
Council elections will be 14th of September.
Yeah. So you could go late, but again, you can't go late September. That's for football finals. That won't go down well.
No, you couldn't.
Could you go in? Could you go in late August, in the middle of winter?
Yeah.
Yes, you can't go. You can't go before the 1st of August, I think.
Got a comment from Phoenix. The Greens will want Albo around because they won't get anywhere with Dutton. He's had enough of the climate scam. It will be interesting to see who the Teals would rather work with.
Oh, why would they want to work with anyone why wouldn't they want to work with someone they could manipulate? Of course they want to keep Albo. They're not going to get any. I mean, they're just not going to move Peter Dutton.
Yep.
He's just going to.
The Teals will back. The Teals have to back Labor because most of their preferences, if they get preferences of the Greens and Labor, they don't get in the government. They don't get a seat.
Yep.
So the basically de facto Labor.
Plus, they target Liberal stronghold seats. Or
all they do is try and get the primary vote under 40 and with preference discipline. Preference discipline from Labor,
which is what happened in McKellar and in Wentworth, and
it was all about the objective is to get the primary vote of the Liberal Party down, and we'll beat you on the back end.
Yep.
Any final comments, Richard, before I ask Sam the final question?
Of course. I think there's already leadership rumblings from internally in the Labor Party, as I said. The contenders are Chalmers, Plibersek and Burke. So that indicates it's coming from internally. Whenever it comes from the coalition, it's always Miles and Shorten. So
okay.
There is now division and dissension inside the Labor Party. So there's this theory that Rudd will stop them changing leaders. And I think the veracity of that has diminished quite a lot already. The argument against that is self-preservation for the marginal Labor members. But there's another argument, which is that they need a reset after having exhausted the goodwill of the election win and exhausted it on the Voice. And the Voice actually does have quite a big impact because it was a breach of faith with the blue collar worker, and that's.
He's laughing.
I'm
saying a word.
Why are you laughing? And it'll play out in Dunkley.
I just want to put my 2 bobs worth in after this. That's all.
Good. So
I'm not laughing at you, Richard. Sorry.
I'm saying, I've said this repeatedly and privately, and I've said it again in public. There's no way they're going to get Gun. They're going to get Albo. They've learnt the hardcore of the people in government. They are said we've been through Rudd, and they're not going to let that happen again.
Well,
and most of those people are the senior Labor people. They're in safe seats.
Sure.
I think personal ambition will overcome all of that.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Sussex Street might not like Albo. Sussex Street won't gun him down. To replace what Albo did with another left winger, Plibersek?
There's something else which is really important.
Sussex Street aren't going to let that go.
There's something else that's really important.
Well, they might think that she's more electable.
Labor.
Yeah.
Tanya.
not
Can
not in the western suburbs of Sydney and Melbourne.
I think she is.
She's a lot more capable than Albo, and she's a woman.
Yep.
A fierce woman that can articulate. She'd be better than Gillard.
Yep. Even her one liability is she's implicated in all the mean girls.
Yes, we need to talk about that. The Brittany Higgins stuff. I want to talk about at some stage. I need to do more research
in that, but she's certainly implicated in the mean girls stuff.
Yeah.
Kimberly Kitching.
Yeah.
So I don't know to what depth, but there's something there, and I'm pretty sure the Liberals know what it is, and they're just holding on to it.
That's a bomb. But yeah, I want to do some more research into because I never paid any attention to that, but I got some information this week that I need to verify, which might make that Higgins case a little bit more interesting. But Sam, let's finish up. You mentioned it before, the American presidential elections coming up.
Yep.
Now we've just had DeSantis and Vivek Ramaswamy bow out. Who's Trump going to pick for his VP?
I read something like that. The governor from South Dakota. Is it Gabriel something? Is it or something? I haven't looked at that sort. But Trump has played that close to his chest. He's a funny situation. Some people still think that the Democrats are not going to endorse Biden.
Kristi Noem?
That's her name. From the governor of South Dakota.
Yeah.
A fierce, loyal Trump man.
Woman.
Trump. And there was some...
thank God.
Not Huckabee.
Thank God it's not Nikki Haley.
Well, it still could be. I was hearing Glenn Beck speak recently, and he said that Trump called him and said, "Who would you?" He was doing the rounds, calling up everyone to see who they thought should be the VP, and Glenn Beck said Vivek, and Trump said, A lot of people were saying that.
All right.
So, I think that would be amazing, Vivek and Trump.
Do you think that?
I think that would be great.
See, does he want two outsiders? Like he had Pence, who was an insider.
Well, Pence got him the religious vote,
and he knew how the government worked. He's been on the inside for years.
Well,
is he still a sitting senator from Indiana?
He probably is.
Yeah, I don't know if he's still sitting. I think he might have retired.
I'd say Trump's moved on. He probably doesn't care how the government works. He only cares about how it's going to work.
One thing, he's going to blow the place up.
I mean, he's going to want revenge.
Fauci will end up in jail.
He can't take Nikki Haley because if he does, the first day he'll have a bullet in his head.
Really?
Yeah, assassinate him and put Nikki Haley in as president straight away. So he's got to take He's got to take an outsider.
Can't do that these days.
I mean, Vivek basically keeps him safe in a way because who would you rather in there, Trump or Vivek?
Sure.
I think Vivek would cause more trouble than Trump. Vivek would know how to do it.
Question: what's long-term plans for the Republican Party post 20? Let's say 2028 when he has to, unless.
Well, hopefully you have 4 years of Trump, 8 years of Vivek, 8 years of DeSantis, and then.
Nah, I reckon you know what Trump will do?
Put his son there.
That's right.
Or put his daughter there.
Don't matter. It's a Trump. Take over the country.
Well, I think Vivek would be the next president, surely.
Trump would
want his son to be.
Trump will run over for Vivek. My daughter's next.
Graham says Trump has learned from the mistakes of the past. He has been building a strong team going forward. Fresh faces coming.
I think he's learned too.
And then he's also said Vivek 2028. Bank on it.
Fair enough.
Oh.
A lot of predictions in today's episode. I'm gonna have to write them all down and see if any of these come true.
You don't need to write them.
Is it too late for my proposal? What I think should happen in
Go on,
the upper houses of
you got 10 minutes.
The Senate in Australia and a bit of voting reform.
Sure, Sam.
I still think in federal politics, I still think we should go to a 4-year terms and an 8-year term in the Senate.
Yeah, I haven't liked the government enough ever to want to keep them for an extra year.
Please explain.
I just think that the cycles too close to each other, and for senators, they need a bit more time. I think if you talk to people from upper house in parliaments of certainly New South Wales and South Australia, where they have 8-year terms, a bit more stable.
Well, most marriages only last 7 years. So why do you want to give them 8 years?
Well,
what are they going to do with all the extra time?
Well, I said to you before, do you want Lydia Thorpe in there for 6 years, or do you want her in there for 8?
Well, that's the problem. That's another issue too. There should be a law. There should be a law in the upper house. If you're voted in by Lydia Thorpe from the Greens, or I'm probably talking about Mark Latham from One Nation, or any other person from a party, he cannot move and stay in politics to become an independent. He must be with the party for all registered with the party.
Well, obviously, when they wrote the Constitution, they were writing it for people to represent their electorates, not represent their party.
The Senate. The reason for a Senate was for a state-based rights 120 years ago.
Yeah, for parties or for representatives.
So meant to be. Senators were meant to represent their states.
See, all you're going to be doing is locking in the party system. So if you get someone in there that wants to go against the party narrative, they're not going to be able to.
Well, they got voted in via a party, so they should be voted out by the party.
Yeah, but this is the thing. Should you be building up the party system, or should you be trying to devolve it of its power? I mean, the party shouldn't. The Labor Party shouldn't be saying to its elected representatives, "You can only vote as a bloc. You only vote, as the Labor Party says, and if you go against it, you're out of the party." They shouldn't be doing that.
Well, that's the rules of the party.
But yeah, and you want to enforce that.
Well, I think it should be.
That's not what the founding fathers had in mind. The founding fathers had in mind that there would be all these independent senators who would represent their states and put their states' interests first. That hasn't happened.
No, that was long.
That's
never been the case.
120-year saga of failure.
Well, the New South Wales upper house actually turns 200 years old this year.
Phoenix says the difference between Lydia and Mark is Lydia could never get voted in by the people.
There's lots of differences between Mark and Lydia.
I just think it's a bit more stable government. Look at the state. Every state in Australia is a 4-year term.
Yeah, but they're states.
What's the difference?
Well, no one pays attention to state politics.
Oh.
I've really got to.
They barely pay attention to federal politics.
I've really got to say that.
And a lot of the bottom
of the upper house, I don't care whether it's 4 or 8 years, and whether. But what I do care about is the lack of proper representation. I think it's obscene that Tasmania has as many senators as New South Wales.
I agree.
Yeah.
It's just obscene.
I agree.
There needs to be Senate reform, and it's like 2 House of Rep seats or 3 House of Rep seats for one senator and be done with it. But this idea that Jackie Lambie has been elected with sort of 40,000 sort of first preference votes can dictate the whole state of the nation is just obscene.
I totally agree with you there. I didn't think about it. I just thought about my suggestion was just to get a 4-year term, let alone proportional voting and stuff like that, proportional representation.
I don't know. I'd still stick to 3, and I don't have a real solid reason as to why I would choose that. It's just my gut feeling. Maybe it's because of what I'm used to.
No, they're just not behaving well enough for us to want to keep them for longer.
Your thinking is give them 4 years. It gives them more time to establish themselves and establish their policies, but they don't have any.
Yeah, but it doesn't matter.
They ruin everything.
It just gives governments a bit more time to find their feet.
Well, this government's
and we're almost
still on its back after what, 2 years?
We're still in election mode. That's what I'm saying.
Pauline says 6 months is too long with Albo.
I agree with Pauline.
I'm talking about the bigger picture of reform. That's all.
Well, I can hear the alarm going off because that's someone's telling us to wrap up. So yeah, thank you everyone for
an hour and a half
for watching. We got really good engagement again.
We had a few more things to talk, didn't we?
Yeah, well, you got to jam them in. So this is why we got to do it again.
Gee.
So thank you.
Just getting going.
Yeah. Thank you everyone who contributed. Graham, Pauline, Phoenix, everyone in the chat. We really enjoyed reading the comments.
How many people we had today?
Well, we'll have to find out. But thank you everyone for watching. If you do want to support us, head over to Buy Me a Coffee The link will be in the show notes to if you do want to contribute there, if you like what we're doing. And if you did enjoy this and you got some value out of it, please share it far and wide.
If you enjoyed me, give me the thumbs up.
Yeah, give Sam the thumbs up. Follow him on Facebook and Twitter.
I'm not on Twitter.
Supposedly Sam's not on Twitter. We all know he is.
Thank you, Stephen. Thank you all.
And thank you, Richard. Thank you for hosting us. And we'll see you all next time. Thank you.